Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to share with you all the books that I read in the month of April. I read 6 books, but before I start to talk about the books I read, I just wanted to quickly mention that I'm getting ready to film my Q&A for the my 1 year on YouTube. I did an announcement video for it probably almost a month ago, and I'm finally getting ready to film it. So if any of you out there wanted to ask me a question, please feel free to ask it on this video, or I will link the announcement video down below. Anywhere, message me on Goodreads, wherever you can find me if you wanted to ask me a question for the Q&A, because I will probably be filming it in the next week or so. So I just wanted to kind of give like a last call kind of announcement for that. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into my April books. The first book that I read in April was Stronger by Jeff Bowman, and this was a memoir that Jeff Bowman wrote. He was one of the victims of the Boston Marathon bombing back in 2013, and you might know him because the picture of him in the wheelchair with his legs basically blown off is kind of this, like, I don't want to say iconic, but it's a very famous picture depicting the bombing. That was him. And it's just his story about what happened and how he recovered. He was there as a spectator. He was supporting his girlfriend Erin, and he was standing by the finish line, and he happened to actually see one of the bombers, and right after he saw him, boom, and the rest is history, as they say. I enjoyed this book. I have to say that the writing wasn't like awesome, because I mean, Jeff Bowman is not a writer. He had some help by Brett Witter, but I mean, it's not like a typical memoir written by a writer, you know, so the writing was okay. My biggest complaint about this book, though I found Jeff's story to be super inspiring, just the way that he bounced back and really just had a positive attitude despite this horrible thing that happened to him and all those people. I felt like this book lacked emotion, considering the events that took place and considering what happened to him. I felt like it lacked emotion, and I felt like Jeff at times, even himself in the narrative, would say, I don't want to talk about that. So I felt distanced from his story. I just wanted more of an emotional connection, and I just didn't quite get it. So I would recommend this memoir, but just know that going in. So I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. After finishing Stronger, I read The Silkworm by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling, and I listened to this one on audio, and I really liked this one, guys. This is the second book in the Cormoran Strike series. There are 3 books out as of right now, and I also just heard that they are doing a TV series, I want to say, that I saw a trailer for, and it looks really good. But this one, I went into not knowing what the story was at all, because I didn't care. I was like, I just want more Cormoran Strike. I don't care what the mystery is. But this mystery was a lot more detailed, and there was like more depth to the mystery, more so than The Cuckoo's Calling, I thought. It's about a woman who hires Cormoran Strike to find her missing husband, who is a writer, and he kind of has a tendency to take off for days on end. And this time, though, it turns out he was murdered, and the circumstances of his murder were pretty gruesome and bizarre. And there are a ton of people kind of involved in this story because he was a writer. He was working on this controversial book that a lot of people did not want to be published. So he had a lot of enemies, you could say. So this story, like I said, was really good. I really loved the mystery. I didn't guess the ending, which is good. And of course, when it was revealed and some of the pieces were put together, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. But I really liked in this one how you got to know Cormoran more, and you got to see more of a progression with him and Robin's like professional relationship. I really liked that, how Robin kind of came forward a little more in terms of like the investigation. I really liked that. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I will definitely be reading the third book, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next up for April, I read Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys, and this is one that I've had on my shelves for a couple of years, and the audiobook was available on Overdrive, so I figured, oh, here comes my dog. Oh, he just ducked under the shot, but he just like walked by, so I thought maybe you guys would see him. Sorry about that. But anyways, the audiobook was available on Overdrive, so I decided to listen to it. It's a World War II historical fiction. It is a YA novel. I don't think it's middle grade. I think it's YA. And it's about a girl who is Lithuanian, and her brother and mother are taken away from their home one day, and they are sent to a labor camp in Siberia. And I really enjoyed this story because it's a side of World War II that I have never read about, and I listened to like an afterword that Ruta Sepetys did with the audiobook, where she says that, you know, that was like the main reason that she wrote this book, was because that side of the war is often so, it's not like overlooked, but just it doesn't have as much of a focus as some of the other areas of World War II. And I just found the story to just be completely heartbreaking. As you can imagine, any of the stories out there that are having to do with labor camps or concentration camps and all of that are just horrible. And this story is no exception. It was heartbreaking, but really good. The violence and stuff was just crazy. I was actually kind of like, while I was listening to it, I was like, wow, I'm surprised that this is YA. Like, it's kind of violent, but I mean, it's reality. Like, these things actually happen to people. So, my only issue with this story, and this has nothing to do with the book, it has to do with the audiobook, was the narrator for the audiobook. I felt like sometimes she sounded too, like, peppy, if that makes any sense. Like, she was just so, like, upbeat and, like, like, it kind of clashed with the story, because the story was not like that. So, I don't know. It kind of threw me off a little bit, but I would highly recommend this story. I will definitely be checking out more of Ruta Sepetys' work, because I've heard that her other work is also very good. So I really enjoyed this, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I listened to another audiobook, and that was Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. It is about a young boy named Jojo who lives with his grandparents and his mother, Leonie, and has a little sister named Kayla. And his mother is struggling with addiction and is kind of absent a lot of the time from his life, and his father Michael is in prison, and the whole plot of the story is that his father is getting out of prison, so Leonie packs up the kids with a friend of hers, and they drive up to pick him up because he's being released. And so a lot of the story takes place on that car ride, and I thought that overall the writing was beautiful, and I loved listening to the audiobook because the words were just so beautiful. I really loved the writing. And the story was pretty good. It was a family drama, you know, can't go wrong with a family drama, and I thought that that was also very good. However, there was a whole section, and it's a main point of the story, that I feel like I just did not get. I feel like it went over my head. I'm hoping that maybe some of you out there that have read this book can maybe help give me some clarity, because I just struggled with this part of the book. And that part is, there are ghosts in this story, 2 of them, and they kind of pop up at different times, and I didn't understand their significance, I guess, and I struggled with it. I don't know why, especially the whole last, like, probably the whole last third of the book, quarter of the book maybe, I don't know. There's a whole lot of stuff going on with the ghosts, and I was just like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I just didn't get it. So, and I think that it's on me, I feel like, because I just feel like I wasn't connecting to that part of the story, and I feel like it was so significant, and I'm like, it's so significant, but I'm just not understanding it, and it was just going over my head, and so it was frustrating. I don't like when books are so, I don't want to say complex, but yes, when there's a facet of the book that I know I'm supposed to be getting, that I'm supposed to be getting something from it, and I'm not. So I was just kind of frustrated with it by the end, and I didn't understand why the ghosts were there. So if any of you out there have read Sing Unburied Sing and can clarify this for me, like please feel free to like message me or something, because I would love to talk about it, and maybe it'll change my view of the book and change my rating, because I gave the book 3 out of 5 stars for that reason. Otherwise, I thought it was a good story, and I thought that the writing was great. So yeah, there's that. And then next up, I read The Alienist by Caleb Carr, and this one was one that I read for my local book club. We are doing quarterly challenges, or quarterly reads along with our monthly reads. And so we decided to read this and then watch the TV series. And I really enjoyed this, guys. It's basically like the blurb on the back says that it's basically like Sherlock Holmes meets Silence of the Lambs. And that's pretty much what this book is. So I really enjoyed this. It takes place in New York City in 1896. So it's a totally different New York City than what we know today. We're talking about like horse and carriages, and like some of the stuff that went on in the city, like the corruption and just some of the things that were legal then, were just crazy. It's just crazy. But it's about a series of murders where these young male prostitutes, and they're cross-dressing prostitutes, are being killed, and they're being killed in a very like ritualistic way. Where they start to think, okay, this is like a serial murderer, and they start to kind of use the psychology side of things with the help from a psychologist named Dr. Kreisler to try to look at elements from the crime and figure out who this guy is and why he's doing this, which at the time was just not a method that was used. And so they kind of have to do it on the sly and everything. And it was just so fascinating to me, how they worked their way into finding out who this killer was, and just that whole aspect of like psychology and the criminal mind and how it works. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. It was a little bit of a slow read for me, a little bit of a long read, and I don't really know why, because I was enjoying it. When I would pick it up, I was enjoying it. It just took me a really long time to get through. But I did like it, and the TV series was pretty good too. It was a pretty good adaptation. They had to kind of, I don't want to say dumb down, but yeah, they kind of had to dumb down the violence and stuff for TV, because it was way worse in the book. But I really liked this, and I would highly recommend it to people that like historical fiction and like murder mysteries, because this is like awesome. So yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. And then I finished off the month by reading The Oracle Year by Charles Soule, and this book was sent to me for review by Harper Perennial, so thank you to them for sending me this. And it's about a guy named Will Dando who is a bass player living in New York City, and he wakes up one day having had this crazy dream where he has these 108 predictions in his head, and they're like very like random. They seem very like minuscule and like not important type of things. Like, for example, one of them is that like this particular guy on this particular day is going to put pepper on his steak. And so you're like, okay, well, like, who cares? You know? But he creates this website called The Site, and he puts all of the predictions on the website and calls himself the Oracle. And of course, these predictions, as random as they seem, they start coming true. And so people become like obsessed with the Oracle, like, who is this person? How does he know this information? And so it becomes like there's like all these people that are like trying to find out who he is. And overall, I thought this was a pretty good story. It was, I could definitely see it being a movie, because it just kind of has that pacing, that cinematic kind of pacing to it. I think that overall it's a good story, but I wasn't blown away by it, unfortunately. I thought that it had good, like I said, it did have good pacing. I got through it quickly. It was an interesting premise, because the main kind of theme of the book is kind of fate and destiny versus free will and choice. Like, are we already like destined to be a certain way or have certain things happen, or do are our lives like the sum of like the choices that we make? Which is an interesting question. But I just felt like this one, it was okay. I liked it. I didn't like love it. It didn't blow me away. I would recommend it, because it is a pretty good book, but it just like wasn't my favorite book this month. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Alright guys, so those are the 6 books that I read in the month of April. Please let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, because I would love to have a chit chat, and I hope that April treated you well reading wise. And like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to ask me a question for my Q&A, please don't forget to go ahead and do it down below or wherever you can find me. And other than that though, that's all I have for today. So I hope you guys are having a great week, and I hope that the month of May treats you well, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.